Good morning from a very chilly Berlin. I thought it might be nice if you join me on my walk to work, and I'm going to tell you the story of how we're scaling our YouTube agency, Humble&Brag, to 7 figures in the first full year of operations. I'll spill all the secrets on what's been working for us and what hasn't been working for us, and I will even give you the exact process that we use to close clients. And I'll also talk a little bit about what I think the future holds for making money with and on YouTube. First though, coffee, and then I'll tell you a little bit about what a YouTube agency actually does. So, what does a YouTube agency actually do? Basically, we grow channels for brands, for companies, and we take over the entire process, all the way from research and strategy, planning and scripting, production, filming basically, to the post-production or the editing, and then getting everything optimized, uploaded, and distributed on YouTube as effectively as possible. That's what we do at Humble&Brag. We're basically a content production machine for the company. That means that we'll deliver one long-form video every single week. We'll deliver short-form video as well. After a year or so, then they've obviously got 50+ long forms. They've got a lot of short-form content. They might be experimenting with other formats like podcasts and lives. And we're basically taking over the accountability, the responsibility for all of that. And you can imagine, once they've got that volume of content, all optimized for YouTube, nicely shot, nicely scripted, nicely presented, all those things, that you've got a channel that could have 100,000 subs, millions of views, even within the first year. So that's a bit of an overview of the offer, but I mean, why does it work? Why are companies banging down the door to work with us? What need have we tapped into? But first, let's get into the office. Fairly early in the morning here at the office. So let's get the equipment set up and then we can switch over to the more professional cameras. What do we do at Humble&Brag? Why are companies banging down the door to work with us? And what need have we tapped into? Let's break the answer down to that question into 3 parts. The functional needs, the procedural needs, and the emotional needs. So as you know, we focus on startups, and startups want to grow. The typical startup does this by building a nice product and then investing a huge chunk of their marketing budget in just 2 platforms, Meta Ads and Google Ads. And this might work for them for some time, but they do become reliant on these 1 or 2 channels, and these channels do have a tendency to get more expensive with both time and scale. And we're an antidote to that, a new channel in the mix which doesn't actually require constant investment to perform. The video we make today can continue driving traffic and leads and sales in 2, 3, 4, 5, even 10 years' time. So that's the functional benefit. What about the procedural benefit? Well, YouTube takes a lot of work. I mean, I mentioned that whole process just a moment ago, and many startups don't have the money or the know-how to place a big bet on YouTube and hire a whole team for it. They just wouldn't know what to look for. So we solve that problem, but we also solve another problem, and this one's a biggie: content production. Because production for YouTube doesn't just mean video production for YouTube, it means video production for a wealth of other channels. It could be nurture content for emails or short form content for Instagram, for example. And suddenly the company goes from producing no or very little video to producing regular, gorgeous video content. And that brings me on to the emotional component. No one likes a bad photo themselves. Everyone loves a good photo. We provide that good photo. When your CEO or your brand manager or you see your company become the protagonist in its own moving picture, it takes a step up in its maturity and a step towards your vision. And while we may talk up the leads and the revenue, a marketer should never neglect the emotions. Understanding clients' pain points and building a service that resolves these pain points, that's a critical step towards landing clients, but it's definitely not the only one. In your sales calls, you're probably going to need to understand and reference bigger industry trends. You're going to need to talk about what's at stake if they don't move with the times. You'll need to be able to second guess the attempts and failed attempts they may have made already. And you're really going to have to understand what they want to get out of their channel or where they want to get to, the promised land. And you're going to have to provide some proof points of why they should trust you on this journey they're about to undertake. And if you have these things down, there's an excellent chance you're going to end up working with your dream clients. So my first bit of explicit advice: write it all down. Create your positioning doc, absorb it, internalize it, reference it in your sales calls, and refine it if something doesn't quite land right. And if positioning is a new concept to you, read April Dunford's Marketing Bible. Obviously awesome, because all those points I just mentioned, they're basically lifted directly from that book. So how do these things look for us here at Humble&Brag? Let's talk about the trends. For some years now, the best startups have been quick to act like media companies, building out production capabilities that match and maybe even surpass established online media outlets. And this doesn't only provide organic marketing channels with great returns on investment, it also provides a whole content engine and a library of content that literally forms a moat between your startup and all the other startups that are kind of myopically plugging away at the paid channels. Let's move on to the next question. How might the startup have tried and failed already with YouTube? Now, there's a good chance they've sporadically uploaded ads and old webinars or film stuff that never made it into edits, let alone onto YouTube. At best, they've done nothing and are chomping at the bit to do something. At worst, they've created the illusion of doing content, but without the strategy, without the consistency, and without the impact. If that's the case, they might be skeptical, and it's our job to plot a career path to their promised land, this compounding content machine that drives leads, sales, builds trust, and grows an engaged audience. But why should they believe us? And this is where the proof points come in. Well, first, as founders, we're in the unusual position of understanding both YouTube and startups, with a track record of growing both companies and channels and slotting YouTube into the marketing mix. And we've proven that the success is replicable. Secondly, we have a team of scriptwriters and video editors and marketers who all specialize in YouTube. And thirdly, we are, or at least we try to be, a pleasure to work with, a factor that definitely shouldn't be underestimated. Now you've got the theory, how does this all look in practice? So as promised at the top of the video, I'm going to walk you through our 5-step sales process, starting with step 1, contact. No surprises to begin with, a potential client contacts us through word of mouth or a LinkedIn post. Now when it comes to client acquisition, what's really surprised me personally since starting the agency is how our network seems to be really rooting for us. And not even just our closest collaborators of the past year. We've noticed how a handful of multipliers, typically like investors or serial founders, can really have an outsized impact on referrals, telling the CEOs and their portfolios about us and kind of implicitly giving us the best endorsement before we've even begun. And after the client drops us a line, we typically have a 20-minute chat that's more about them than it is about us. So what are their challenges and aspirations? Why do they think YouTube might be a solution? And then off the back of this call, we move on to step 2, the one-pager. Here we offer up a super digestible one-pager in which we research their industry and map out what a channel might look like. And then we book in a time to talk it through. 2 things are important at this stage. Number 1, can the client visualize it? And number 2, can we address their objections, which are generally procedural. So how do we measure it? And how much will their team have to contribute? And from here, we move on to step 3, the strategy workshop. So towards the end of the second call, once we've walked them through our vision for their channel, we pitch a free 2-hour strategy workshop. Now, this isn't a sales call in disguise, it's an actual workshop, and it's magic. To date, we've won every single client we've done this with. And here's how it works. We get all the key decision makers in one room, and usually that means the marketing lead, someone from the leadership team, and if we're lucky, the founders too. Then we guide them through a working session that does 2 things at once. It uncovers what they actually want YouTube to do for them, and it shows them exactly how we think, how we approach content, positioning, storytelling, and growth. We walk through their audience, their brand, their funnel, and where YouTube fits into it all. And we talk about trends, how the best startups are already acting like media companies, and we unpack how YouTube isn't just a nice-to-have awareness channel, but truly a full funnel compounding engine. We'll also do some light competitive analysis. We'll show them how others in their space are using or misusing video, and then we'll sketch out 2 to 3 high-leverage video formats that they could or should start with, complete with working titles, hooks, and distribution plans. Sometimes this is the moment when they say, that's what we've been missing. And that's the goal, because this workshop does what no deck or email can really do. It builds trust and belief, and it creates clarity around the content plan. So we're not just pitching ourselves, we're showing them what it would be like to work with us. And we're taking them halfway to the promised land before they've even signed anything. And they leave the session with this strategic blueprint, not just ideas, and actual clarity on what to do next. By the end of the call, one of 2 things happens. Either they say, great, we're all ready, how do we start? Or they say, this is brilliant, we just need to align internally, and then they come back a week later to say yes. So we get the contract signed and move on to step 4, the launch strategy. So after the workshop, we follow up with a launch strategy, a short focused doc that lays out what month 1 of the channel could look like. We split the ideas into 3 or 4 clear pillars based on their audience, product, and messaging priorities. And under each pillar, we suggest a handful of working titles, some drawn from pre-validated content, some from angles we've used here at Humble&Brag before, and some original ideas derived from their positioning. Each title includes a short note on who it's for and why it matters, and where it fits in the funnel. The goal isn't to present a finished plan, but to give the team something concrete to react to, so they can flag what resonates, what doesn't, and what they'd be excited to make. And then we whittle down those titles to just 4 long forms and anywhere between 4 and 20 short forms. And by the end, we have a rough shape for the first shoot. And from there, we get into production in just 2 to 3 weeks. On to step 5. Execution mode. Once the strategy is signed off, we shift into what we call execution mode. That means scripting, planning, and prepping for the first shoot. Whether we're filming in-house here at Humble Studios, or we're working remotely with a team, or managing production somewhere else entirely. We start by pulling together a set of scripting notes, not just rough outlines, but clear guidance. This means what the tone should be, who the content is for, and what role each video should play in the funnel. And also what kind of hooks or CTA structure that might work best. This is a collaborative process, and depending on the client, we'll either write the full scripts ourselves or work closely with internal experts to shape their thinking into something that's YouTube ready. It's not about over-polishing things or making them sound like copy. The goal is to make the host sound like the most confident version of themselves. Clean, clear, and conversational. And because we've already mapped the channel strategy, this process tends to move quickly. Everyone knows why we're making these videos, who they're for, and how they fit together. At this point, clients often start to feel a bit of a shift. The whole thing stops being hypothetical, shoots are scheduled, scripts are ready, and the channel is starting to take shape. Not as a vague ambition, but as a real operational engine. And that's our business in a nutshell. I've probably made it sound much more like plain sailing than it has been in reality. While it hasn't been a slog, really, to land clients, it's definitely taken a lot to set up the team and processes to manage what is, to be honest, a pretty complicated and intense workflow. So why am I laying out our business in replicable detail? Well, I believe we're just at the beginning of the YouTube boom times, and a few more agencies like us will help pry open a market that's going to be difficult to saturate. Why do I think this? Well, number one, because YouTube is lining up such a powerful portfolio of products. I mean, I'm even seeing their paid demand gen campaigns are beginning to compete with Meta for things like lead generation. It's a bit like Microsoft. It feels like their strategic wisdom has come with age. Number two, because interest in SEO is plummeting, and yet companies still need those resilient organic channels because organic channels, when done well, are defensible. Startups with strong organic engines are just less dependent on those volatile and very expensive performance channels in order to scale. Number three, because the savvy startups publish regularly. They publish founder-led explainers, industry breakdowns, custom stories, cultural takes, and YouTube is the anchor, the perfect anchor for this content system. I mean, I remember when founders used to write Medium posts, but now they're recording reaction videos. And I remember when CMOs used to publish gated white papers, but now they're on camera talking through frameworks and case studies. Because YouTube is where startup storytelling is moving because it's so much easier to connect with that content than PDFs and white papers. And finally, reason number four, because I have this nagging feeling that AI is coming for all the other socials first, and YouTube, being so long form and human at its core, might be where everyone flees for humanity's last stand against the bots. So that's the story, how we've gone from idea to agency, and what it's taken to build a YouTube first offer that startups actually want. From understanding the emotional, procedural, and strategic needs of our clients to designing a process that builds trust and delivers clarity at each step, this has been the foundation of our growth. And as YouTube continues to evolve, so will the opportunities for agencies like ours to help companies show up and scale up. If you have any questions about starting or growing your own YouTube agency, drop them in the comments below. Hit subscribe if you haven't done so already. And if you want to work with us, then send us a message on LinkedIn or check out our website. And I will see you in the next video. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.